Twitter account that we threw it up on.
Yeah, I follow it. I always try to tag and share stuff, and I always look at that. It's the one with the new logo, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Let's see if I can get Sirenscape going without being too obnoxious. Like I said, it was crashing yesterday on me. Get some city sounds going.
Cyberpunk Uncensored.
Hey, what's up? We're officially live. Everyone can see us now.
Woohoo!
What's up, man? How you doing?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Good. I'm doing good. I'm glad to be back on here and streaming and, talking about some Cyberpunk and some Night City. I need that shit. It's like therapy to me, you know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and hey, what's up, everybody in the chat? I see Eric there, and let me make sure. Perkin Jalayer. Hopefully I'm saying that right.
Perkinji.
Oh, okay, Perkin G. Yeah, seeing some people there nice and early. That's great. Yeah, this is Night City Live. This is the third episode. Lobster Falcon's been with me since the first episode. That's awesome. I really appreciate you coming back and joining me. I think this is kind of me and you. This is our thing, I guess, now. Like we had a third planned, and it didn't work out with the scheduling. And then I tried to last minute hit up a couple other GMs I work with and I know and I'm friends with. And it just didn't work out with like anybody, and even a couple committed, and then we're like, oh shit, I forgot, I can't because of this, and I'm like, damn it, all right. And I was like, Lobster, let's do this, just me and you, we can do it.
I'm ready.
So yeah, I think we can handle it. Hey, what's up? I see Big Val in the chat, my beautiful wife who plays Raven the solo in our weekly ongoing. But yeah, Night City Live. This is everything about Night City. The first episode we did places and things and services of Night City. The second episode was all about the gangs of Night City. Anybody interested in those? The VODs are on Cyberpunk Uncensored on the YouTube channel. So it's just youtube.com/cyberpunkuncensored. I'll drop all the links in the description at the end of this, and we'll VOD it on that channel too. You can also go to cyberpunkuncensored.com. You'll see it written there in the bottom of the frame. That will be in the description too. We have links to everything from there. As well as the Discord, where you'll find a link to Night City Stories, which Lobster Falcon can tell you all about. Why don't you do a little introduction tell people about you and about the server and what you guys are doing there.
Sweet. So I'm part of Night City Stories, which is the largest online living community for Cyberpunk Red. If you've ever wanted to play Cyberpunk Red and you just didn't have a home game, or kept trying to schedule session 0 and it just never really happens, or you're the forever GM and you don't want to run this just this time, living communities are where you can go online, and we have about 20 active GMs all posting games. And always looking for more GMs, and so it's a one-off style where you are. It's still a living community. Your characters still progress, but with this, you get to apply to different jobs that are posted and actually just play Cyberpunk online without having to arrange a regular group. So that's what living communities are all about. We are unambiguously the biggest, and we're the best. You're not going to have to jump through weird hoops. Everyone out there has seen ones where you have to register with these crazy Discord bots and assign yourself 40 roles and fill out like a lifelong form. Here, it's pretty quick. Get in, you can make a character, get it approved, and play some games, run some games. So we're always looking for more people. You can find us on Discord and on Reddit as Night City Stories. So come check us out.
Oh yeah, and anybody part of the Cyberpunk Uncensored Discord, you'll see we have a West March channel that links directly to them. We're partners. We have channels about all kinds of play, whether it's Red or 2020 or even 2077. But the West March, we promote them. It's a great server, and like you said, it's easy to get involved. You know, all you guys are really involved with that server, so you don't have to like hit up a bunch of bots and you know, automated shit in the process and all that, whatever. It's real quick and easy, so that's great. Yeah, aside from that, hey, what's up? I see Jenny Glitz changed the username, made it. Yeah, we reminded her, I guess, to change the name. That's great. That's easier for me to pronounce and to remember. Chuggy, what's up? Hell yeah. So everybody's showing up. That's great. So I guess we can get into this episode. Let me bring up my notes. Well, before I get into the notes, let me first give a shout out to all my supporters on Patreon. I really appreciate all of you. You know, you're the reason I constantly put out crash course tutorials and series and live streams and gameplay and content and running the website and, you know, getting other GMs involved and creators of assets that you can use for free, all kinds of shit. We just started up the Scream Sheet stuff, but it's completely fueled because of my supporters on Patreon. And I just want to give them all a shout out. Anino from Anino Gaming, Chris Anderson, Steve Barr of Sirenscape, which you hear playing right now. Love that. Jason Weaver, Matt James, who's also GM Reservoir Panda, who streams with Cyberpunk Uncensored. Samurai Mac, Corruption, who's just released that vehicle release for Cyberpunk Red. It's on our blog on the website, cyberpunkuncensored.com. Oh yeah, it's a bunch of vehicles, all the stats. He did this elaborate thing. He's getting ready to do another update though, because some of the fonts didn't translate with people using Firefox. So he's on that. He's on that shit. He's great. And then Rothan, who plays on my monthly ongoing. Simon Peter, Method, who's part of our team helping out there with the Discord server. Nick Mastrofilippo, and then Dolan Pondsmith, who's one of the Pondsmiths, which is awesome. She's also an artist, so look her up. She does some great work, and you can check all that out.
Sweet.
Hey, what's up, PWB? Actually, I was just talking about how we're doing the Scream Sheets. PWB, who's also known as Ferris Bueller on the Cyberpunk Uncensored Discord, is our head writer, and he's handling all the submissions and all that shit. He's awesome. He's basically the driving force behind our Scream Sheets. You know, we have a team of people. You'll see them. They're all credited on the site. But PWB has been a key asset in keeping that train moving forward. I really appreciate him, so that's great. Yeah, and definitely submit. Anybody, Jenny just said I should submit to a Scream Sheet. Yeah, if you get on the Discord, you'll see the submission process. Also on cyberpunkuncensored.com, you'll see the Scream Sheet page. And we have a whole submission process there. We want everyone's stories. GMs, if you have cool little news blurbs, fake ads, whatever, we'll put them in. You can also send us stuff that you want for your upcoming games. We'll put it together with other shit, and you can use them. You know, it's all free for GMs to use. But yeah, let's get into it. I kind of want to start off, just, you know, we'll do some back and forth here, but I want to lead it up a little bit. And then you can kind of take the lead. You know, we'll just kind of share, you know, like I said, going back and forth. But when it comes to entertainment, obviously we can get into, you know, campaign examples and the details of all that stuff. And we're definitely going to get into that conversation. But what I'd love to do is first and foremost, just kind of go over the entertainment, you know, what's available within Night City for entertainment for the people. And then we'll kind of break down how that works or what it is. And then maybe the different facets of how you can play that into a game or just creative thoughts about it, you know? So yeah, the first thing is the obvious, which is the McCartney Field Stadium. It's, you know, in the upper marina. It's the huge stadium where all the big events happen. And as in the Cyberpunk Red Book, it's described as a corporate-sponsored 75,000-seat stadium home to Night City's many local teams. And then it lists the teams, Night City Slammers, which is baseball, Night City Rangers, which is football, Night City Heat, which is basketball, and Night City Death Dealers, which is combat soccer. That's my favorite one. I love the sound of that. It reminds me, just a quick little story. When I was younger, I was in middle school, maybe even freshman and going into high school as well, but I was living in Florida, and we were big in the music scene. You know, I was in a band and stuff, but we would always go out to concerts, and we were all about moshing and stage diving and just getting rowdy as hell at shows, you know? But we also, in my neighborhood, we'd go up to the local basketball court and play basketball sometimes. So we created this thing we called Mosh Ball, and we would bring up a stereo system or open the car doors and just blare some music and play basketball where it's like you can never call a foul. So we would just get rowdy as fucking. It's called Mosh Ball. And it reminds me of combat soccer in a way, you know?
Yeah. Combat soccer is really interesting because it's one of the few sports that's called out that is distinctly different from modern day sports. And so combat soccer is touched on in 2020. So the cool thing about combat soccer is that the ball is covered in spikes, your shoes are covered in spikes, and your headgear is covered in spikes. And it even talks about that the Night City Death Dealers has no stars on it because nobody lives long enough to become a star. That kind of gives you the idea of like the crazy, like hyper future violence that combat soccer is all about. You're talking about what it reminds me of. It reminds me of Blood Bowl.
Oh yeah.
The tabletop game like that. That's what combat soccer kind of reminds me of. There's no limit on augmentations. You can just beat the shit out of one another. You're killing people by hitting them with the ball if you kick it hard enough. How one kicks a spiked ball, I'm not exactly certain. But that's irrelevant because it's cool as hell.
Yeah.
And so like the combat soccer is interesting in its like unique setup for really making the world of Red like a crazy, grimy, dirty, violent sport rather than just like regular sports. I kind of see combat soccer as like the people's gladiatorial sport much more than maybe like, baseball or something like that. It's maybe more corporate. That's not necessarily backed up by anything, but that's kind of the vibe that I get.
Yeah, definitely. What are some of those movies, the rollerball original ones and stuff, like just that combat meeting sport crossover. And yeah, I forgot to say earlier because of the shirt stuff, because we were chatting about it in Discord, because on the AMA I was wearing my Stank Mouth shirt, not a Cyberpunk shirt, but I'm back, and especially with my Night City shirt, for this episode. So everything's back to normal, just for anybody that was commenting about that from yesterday. But yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's funny how you mentioned like the corporate side of that, because to me, what I think is what comes to mind first when I read that description in Cyberpunk Red, in that book, when it starts off saying a corporate sponsored 75,000 seat stadium, blah, 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 home to all these teams. The first thing I think about isn't just like, in today's age, like corporate sponsors, banners, and people that are paying to like get free, advertising out of the crowd. It comes with that vibe of corpse in Cyberpunk, which is always, corrupt and dirty and, dangerous. So I just pictured the fact that they started off with that sentence and that it's in Cyberpunk. I just automatically think like, okay, some are possibly doing espionage or assault teams on each other for the better advertisement spots, or they're like paying off referees for the teams that they want that they're advertising on, or something. You know what I mean? It just screams corruption.
And all sorts of that. Like you're kind of doing a little segue into run hooks around the stadium, right? Like there's because of that corporate ownership. One in Cyberpunk, you're gonna be needing, these corporations are going to be wanting to get their return on investment somehow. So right, like the obvious one is they're going to be doing advertising, but like how underhanded can you be? So maybe you're bribing somebody. Maybe your job is you get tickets to a booth, but like a super high class Lux booth, but your goal is to go plant some listening bugs on the booth next door. That's the Network 54 booth, right? Like
exactly.
Quincy in the chat asked, did they miss much? You did not. We just really kind of got into the meat of things.
Yeah.
That type of stuff. How much could you help the teams cheat, right? Like there's going to be a benefit for the Night City teams to win, for any of the people who sponsor those Night City teams. How dirty can it get? So obviously combat soccer is going to get pretty dirty as far as the entertainment sphere. But then also with that, I think the McCarthy Stadium is a perfect sentiment for medias and rocker boys, because outside of these big sports, that's where they also host like big conventions. They host concerts. Like if you're a rocker boy and you're in your game and you're climbing up there and you get to like Rocker Boy 7, Rocker Boy 8, you want to fill a stadium for an event, this is the stadium that you're
you want to be the halftime show to whatever event is going on, the equivalent, or you're doing like you said, the tailgate part, their equivalent of a tailgate party, you're in the parking lot doing the big festival, the pre-game event. No, I love that. And like I said, I just like the idea that they've gone, and obviously we're going to, there's the club level and smaller level and shit, but I love that they incorporated a big, the idea of a stadium, the big feel of the stadium, and it's even named after McCartney. I just like that idea. That's been ongoing, obviously, but yeah, I feel like there's a lot there that a GM can work with, because at face value, it can be entertainment, like going to a game, a concert, whatever, and you have some encounters in the crowd or in and out or hassled by security or whatever. It can involve a job that maybe one of these corporate sponsors is trying to do, like we mentioned, all the different ways that they're manipulating what's going on to get the edge. Or as a media or rocker boy, whether or not promoting, maybe you're doing a story or cracking a case on one of these corps doing that, or one of the refs, or something going on behind the scenes. I just think it has so much potential. And then also potential for other, I don't know, a bigger worldly feel because of the fact that you're dealing with these teams and it's all Night City Slammers, Rangers, Heat. I want to make sure I don't miss one. Death Dealers, and I feel like it makes you definitely feel like there's an absolute chance to run into teams from New York, San Francisco, or other Chicago. Or,
yeah,
exactly. You get the point. So I think it just, I don't know, it makes the world feel bigger when you can do stuff like that, because you can still work in Night City, but just bring in some of that element that just reminds you that there's this other world going on while you're stuck in there dealing with the craziness of Night City. You know what I mean?
So yes, I agree completely. There's also, I did a little digging. I found 3 specific run hooks that you can use that are canon around the sports teams. So the first one is the Night City Slammers, the baseball team. If you're describing that baseball team, they apparently have all-star hitting and the abysmal defense. But they have a star but volatile hitter named Jose Rose. And the team uniform looks like convict stripes. So an easy run hook might be you edgerunners get a call, and the game is going to start at 7 p.m. and it's noon, and nobody can find Jose Rose, their star hitter. Because he's a crazy volatile dude, and he's out, in somewhere, and you have 4 hours to dig him up.
Or involve it in a kidnapping or something. The opposing team's corporate sponsors put out
they honeypotted him at some high-scale club and got him. Now he's tied up in a warehouse somewhere, so he misses the game, and the other
exactly.
playoff.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things I had written down too. Is I wanted to remember mentioning the aspect of kidnapping or missing players or teams and shit like that. That's awesome that you brought that up with specific lore from that, at least from the Slammers. But what else? What was some of the other shit? You said there was something else.
Oh yeah. The other one is the football team. So the one thing that they mention about the Night City Rangers is it's the best team money can buy. So what that means is that Red is probably a world where a salary cap doesn't exist. That just doesn't seem egalitarian. So imagine all these really rich stars brought from all over the world who maybe are selfish, or maybe are getting into crazy stuff. And so you now have this hook of what happens if you have the 10 highest paid players in football all living in the chaotic world that is Night City? What kind of stuff can you get up to? Maybe you're describing a nightclub and the quarterback of the Night City Rangers rolls up and he's, just rolling with stacks of ebbies, making it rain as he walks into the club. That's an easy way you can bring in kind of another canon hook into your world as an influence.
I love that idea. And before the chat gets too far along, I do want to mention, I think it was, let me just scroll back up here. I want to say Quincy or somebody mentioned, do you reckon there's still Comic-Cons going on? I like that idea. I totally think there is the equivalent of that, because just like, there's scavengers and night markets and, how Red is, shit just isn't that available. There's probably going to be that sort of Comic-Con, pop culture collector version of, the survival side of scavenging, the collector side. But I picture it's not going to be like now, San Diego Comic-Con, tens of thousands of people, taking the streets or whatever, and it's just so packed. It's going to be more of the people that can afford it, because it's even more rare. You're looking at past the fourth, you've already gone up to the 4th corporate war and beyond, and look how shit just was destroyed. And I just think there's less of those collectible items, but it's still going to exist. Culture is still the way it is. People are still going to want to collect, but I think it's going to move to the upper echelon or whatever. It's going to be that top tier of people.
For Comic-Con, I think there's 2 tiers, and it's kind of what Rob was touching on. Imagine the high-end collector's edition where now you're going antiquing, right? You're not looking for a first edition Superman or whatever. You're looking for a Superman comic, right? Because half the cities on the planet got bombed to shit.
Yeah.
So But then along with old collectors media, you're also thinking about new media, right? And that's like what this entire thing is about. So all of the new media productions, and something I think we'll go into later, is that in the time of Red, independent producers still have a lot of cachet, right? Like, you don't have to be a big broadcaster to be successful on a data term. I could very easily see comic book artists distributing their stuff on data term as like a Patreon or that kind of subscription pay for their little local comics, and you can have that little type of group being successful at a local venue. But then you also have like Militech death dealers, like special edition comic, Militech sponsors the Punisher or whatever as they go in and kill Arasaka goons or some shit like that type of comic book, Avengers-esque military propaganda, whatever. Both of those things I think exist in parallel and could be an interesting setting at a Comic-Con in Night City. One of the other things I want to touch on really quick is Everready said, I don't remember what Lobster Falcon's level of excitement was for the roller derby stuff that took over. I love roller derby. Roller derby is one of my very favorite sports to watch. Women committing violence is super hot. And so I think roller derby in Night City has a high potential. Roller derby has always existed, at least in modern era, as a very alternative sport in terms of attracting kind of the punk, the rock. It has obviously a high concentration of LGBTQ people, and it's very independent in that sense. And I think in a punk setting, roller derby makes a ton of sense. The other cool thing about roller derby that I think you can incorporate in a cyberpunk setting is
combat derby.
Make it combat derby, right? Make it violent.
As if it's not already violent, let's just say. Yeah. It's already like they're slamming each other and whatever. But go on, sorry.
But I mean, think about, instead of roller skates, you've got cyber legs with the skate augmentation. You're blasting around at light speed inside of this arena, and things are blowing up, and they've got holograms projected across the field. Maybe this roller derby field has pop-up bunkers in the middle of the ground. You have to get around. You can do all sorts. You can do all sorts of stuff. Sorry, I just read Jenny's comment. I'm ready to be gay. Yes, that is a common refrain within the roller derby leagues, but it's quite fun.
That's fun.
So I think sports have just a huge realm, a huge opportunity to be high levels of entertainment because they have been throughout all of human history. And even in a dystopian time of Red, people are going to look for distractions. Sports are an easy one. People are tribal and like following teams. And so in your campaign, how you want to incorporate sports, think about the two levels, right? Think about the high, big level of what's going on at the stadium, the Night City Slammers, and how you can play that high level. And then think about the low level, the local, the roller derby teams, the backyard wrestling matches where dudes are throwing people onto beds of tacks or something for this little data term crazy video. There's even a mention in 2020 about the street football leagues, which are like hyper violent. They're mostly gang run. They go into streets in the combat zone, block off a parking lot or a street, and then play, dangerous, violent, chromed up football in the middle of the street surrounded by a bunch of gangs and stuff. And that's actually where a lot of the football stars will emerge from. They'll be recruited out of these gang leagues. So that's a cool option to build into as well.
Oh yeah, I love that. And then the idea also to think of, if you're going to incorporate sports into your campaign, any GM, don't forget to make it cyberpunk. The same way we were joking about combat derby or whatever, you can always change up the playing field or the way they play or how the teams work or whatever, and modernize it, make it a little more dangerous, a little crazier, just so it's more entertaining to talk about and to drop into your game, and it feels like things are cyberpunk. It's not just a normal game of whatever sport. You know what I mean? And I love that you mentioned wrestling, the backyard wrestling stuff, because I had in my notes here, I wanted to mention a Nino from Nino Gaming, who plays with Wandering DM, one of my supporters on Patreon as well. He plays a rocker boy that's a wrestler.
Yes.
I don't know if anyone has watched their stream, but he came over and did a crossover with one of ours, going to the meat market, and I want to bring that up in a moment too. I have a couple example campaigns once we get further along into the smaller levels and different ways of entertainment. But yeah, he plays a wrestler, and I thought that was just another thing I wanted to mention as far as entertainment. Don't forget, all sports and alternative ones as well. That whether as big as WWE style, like huge, maybe you see it in the arena, or like you said, like Lobster said, some backyard wrestling.
One thing I wanted to touch on, Rob was saying, spice up a sport to make it more cyberpunk, right? And so I think the theme of all cyberpunk that I like to run is cinematic but gritty, right? So you don't want to be simulationist but gritty, but you want to amp everything up a notch, turn up the saturation a little bit. And actually, in a roller derby league that I used to go watch in Austin, Texas, which is bank track is way better. Whenever you got a penalty, they actually spun a giant wheel of penalties, like a Wheel of Fortune thing, and then when it landed on it, it was various stuff. So some of them were like tug of war, where you were doing tug of war on roller skates, and whoever won the tug of war won. Another one was pillow fights, except for the pillow fights was the girls would wrap the pillow around their fist and punch each other for 30 seconds.
Nice.
Like, those are the type of like crazy ways that even just in real life they did it specifically to make it more entertaining for the crowd. But that's the type of thing you should think of for your inspiration.
Yeah, and I see Quincy says combat derby could be trigger box of scavs smuggling athletes, chrome, as well as uncut, unfiltered XPD.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Imagine high-end athletes. Maybe Network 54 has paid them a lot of money to get a Braindance recorder installed to be in the game, so you could sell Braindances of this winning touchdown drive or whatever. Like, as you could do the Braindance inside of the athlete. That's pretty cool. And very, very cyberpunk.
I see a lot of money in that chrome. I think that's a great way to shorten your lifespan as a scav. Yeah, it could come back to bite you in the ass, But that's everything in cyberpunk. You got to live dangerous. It's high risk, big reward, right? Sometimes. But yeah, aside from arena, I think you mentioned on some of the smaller level stuff. I wanted to remind people, you got the big arena level things, and think of all forms of entertainment, not just sport, but performers, spoken word stuff, maybe a political gathering, or a big corporate release party or something. Like, you think of anything that goes on arena, and then think of ways to kind of make it cyberpunk, make it dangerous, make it gritty, put a little danger in there, or something twisted, or a plot twist to it, modernize it. But then you go down, there's a whole level of clubs and bars and such, and the same performers that you're going to see at the arenas, the same sports, the same things you can kind of translate on a smaller level, like you said, starting out at the smaller bars and clubs or in the streets, and it anything goes. I feel like you're going to see any types of music performers, even like I said, the wrestlers, and the same types of gatherings. There's going to be all kinds of entertainment. Just like in this day and age, even about mitzvahs and quinceañeros and all kinds of stuff. You're gonna see. There's university there. Maybe there's holiday gatherings for all the students, and any type of entertainment thing you can think of can be there. But just remember that it can go on different levels. There's the big stadium, but then the smaller club and bar circuit. And one in particular, like they mentioned, which is directly involved with entertainment, and probably one of the only ones that has that kind of listed in the Cyberpunk Red, because there's not a lot to dive into that side of it other than the mentioning in the arena, all the different sports teams, is the Slammer. I've used it in one of my campaigns with our Fixer Kid, who recently kind of took it over from an owner when he was running his fights there. But as the description, it's a popular ganger bar on the South Side docks. It's in South Night City, if anyone's not familiar. But it's known for its cinder block arena, where boosters from all across the combat zones come to settle disputes with heavy firepower and bloody rippers. So it's like going to see the local fights, but the backyard, and not it's like that backyard wrestling or whatever. But it's like maybe to death, or maybe at least to mortally wounded. But that's one of the spots that mentions it, and that's like on that club level,
Yeah. Yeah, I found 5 canon bars. If we wanted to move to bars, and anyone have any other questions on sports and stuff?
And they can always, and keep in mind, anybody in chat, I'm scrolling in and checking on the chat. same as Lobster Falcon's doing. I'm sure, as we move on, if you do have something to mention on whatever subject we already covered, we have no problem backtracking or dropping it in or reiterating something. It's fine. So, games on the NCU campus. Yep, and I mentioned the university. I could, there's going to be that level. And think of that too on the arena with the big sports coming from other cities and whatever. Maybe other universities. Maybe there's like some, an auditorium or a mini arena or a little field on the side of the university there. Obviously heavily secured.
Yeah, I'd actually argue in a home game that I was running, I would say that college sports have died only because it's much more dystopian recruiting a 17-year-old kid to go play in the big leagues. And
that's fine.
Even though the NCAA is massively dystopian and a horrific enterprise to begin with, but with like how crazy Night City is and with travel and with the destruction of so many cities, I would generally argue that college sports are probably located to inner city, intramural, like there's only one college in Night City. Night City's a pretty big city. That implies that there's like significantly fewer college sports available.
And in the description, even on Night City NCU, they even talk about the heavy security because it's constantly bombarded by booster gangers in the past and things. So, it's probably going to be like one university per city, or like you said, some key locations that are funded, and maybe limited sports, maybe not everything across the board, but something that represents or something. I don't know. But I can see that just like coming from the streets, the big arenas pulling from both. But I like your idea too, and it's obviously GM discretion. You don't want certain sports in your game, and you want to make it it feels more dystopian to play it a certain way. By all means, go for that. And then Ever Ready, before the chat goes too far, I did want to mention, they said, how big do you think dining is considering good food scarcity? And I think it's prevalent. It's there. Look in the book that it mentions restaurants and diners and things, and it's going to be there. People have to eat. There's all different levels, whether it's good pre-packed, down to kibble or real food. It's what you can afford, but it's there, and I think it's even probably more of an entertainment, or I don't know, maybe a luxury or something than in the past, like going from 2020 to red, because of that scarcity, the affordability, you getting real food. It's a big treat. That it even talks about in the economy section about, if you're fitting within a certain budget, like, all right, cool, you're doing kibble, you're doing pre-pack, or you're doing this, but you can afford to at least go out to a restaurant like once a month and enjoy yourself. And, so that's a form of entertainment. It happens. What do you think about that, the dining and restaurants?
I think food is such a universal experience, and sharing meals is such a very human form of both entertainment and relationship building that has gone on since the dawn of time. That I don't think that we would lose dining even in a food scarce environment. What I think happens is that on the lower socioeconomic end, what you're going to get is you're going to get things like weird food carts and stuff like that, selling. You're gonna, in combat zones, you're gonna get rat on a stick, or you're gonna get somebody who's taken kibble, wetted it down, and formed it into a popsicle or some shit, right? Like you're gonna get.
I was gonna say PWB in chat even says you actually know what the meat in the loaf is, like along those lines, like you said, it's probably like remolded kibble with this extra garlic flavoring, and like that's our meatloaf, our kibble loaf, or
or whatever. But as you start climbing the socioeconomic ranks, then you're going to start getting back to kind of casual dining as we knew it pre-COVID pandemic, right? Like, people just going out to eat or going out to bars or whatever in the non-combat zone areas, when you're into like the industrial zones and into the the dense areas up to like the Glen and things like that. So think about like everybody is going to share meals. That's just a human condition. It's just going to be the venue and the scale and the quality that's going to vary. Exactly. With the low level is definitely going to be more like families doing it, or a person running a small independent business with whatever they can scrap together. So
yeah, 100% agree. But it's definitely just to You're right there in the chat. I forget who posted that, but it is. It's a form of entertainment. And there's a couple things I want to mention because we were talking about, like the backyard wrestling, roller derby, and I mentioned we'll make it like combat derby or changing things. There's a couple other little sports things on my notes. I wanted to mention some things that I've incorporated into games in my past, ideas that I'm kind of working into possible future campaigns and things, and in recent times. But think of like a possible nomad death race. So maybe there's like some city to city traveling or across Badlands, some course plotted out where it's just totally combat racing, and it's maybe nomad driven with like some prizes and things, and nomad families get together to compete, and there can be other things like Thunderdome-esque style, competition and battle things going on during this maybe festival or this yearly nomad family gathering, or maybe it's just something that's always going out over past the local nomad camp. They just constantly have that track and they're always doing death races and shit. But I thought of that. And battle bots or battle drones. Hell, we've done that since the 90s here. I remember that show on I think it was Comedy Central or something, right?
Actually, Spike TV and
Spike, yeah.
I was watching BattleBots replays last night.
Perfect. Hell yeah. So can't you totally picture that? Maybe like battle drones or something, and corporations, top techs come in and, or net runners, and they're in there fucking controlling drones that are battling. And I don't know, I could totally see that. And even bringing in weird, okay, now it's the antique worker bots that used to do the old construction sites, and they come in and battle, and it's those old school boxer robot game, you know what I mean? There's all different kinds of, but I picture battle bots, battle drones, and it can be a very tech or net runner driven campaign. I can see it being kind of fun. The other thing I wanted to mention with entertainment, and let's not forget the body lotto.
Yes,
that's a form of entertainment. It's betting. Let's not forget about betting, which is any of these sports or entertainment or things, but body lotto.
For those who don't know Body Lotto is basically every night 6 winning numbers are chosen depending on how many corpses are found in areas of Night City. The numbers of the Body Lotto are taken from 6 random districts within the Night City Greater Metro. The numbers are derived from the locations where the cadavers are found, not necessarily where they were murdered. All right, so the fact that there are specific rules about this means that somebody has found a bunch of dead bodies and moved them to another district to influence the rules before.
Yeah.
And
that plays right into, like I was saying, in all of these, make it cyberpunk. And there's a prime example, no matter what it is, even on the body level, lotto, there's ways that corruption takes over to win or do betting or things, Was that I recently looked into Cyberdeck lore, and it turns out you can send your feed to flat screen speakers or share it over Trode cables. I wonder if there are netrunner sports. Oh, I'm sure, yeah. Just video game, like esports. Look how popular that's, more than regular sports, especially quarantine. But even prior to that, there were certain games that were drawing more viewers. So I could see that being huge, even though the internet's different in red. Data pools, maybe televised or stream sheets, digital videos that are put out about it that are instantly put on all the different data ports and things.
I actually have a big spiel on digital entertainment. I want to get to one thing before I move over to that, though,
sure, yeah.
Which is another entertainment aspect, especially if you want to use stadiums at either high level or an amphitheater or whatever at a low level, is the Cyberpunk Carnival, right? So think about a carnival or a circus set in the time of Red. The idea of what you could do to amp it up and be cyberpunk. Imagine Biotechnica sponsored tamed lions that are 14 feet tall, right? Or a guy who can spit fire, but he actually spits fire because he has a flame planted in his throat, right? Or acrobats with extendo arms. You can do all this weird, sick cyberpunk stuff inside the aspect of a carnival and make it weird and strange.
A freak show, but it's just people with augmentation to look like different animals, and they're like, what, this is normal? It's not even a freak show, it's just normal.
Yeah. The idea that I had for that was imagine that you had to go undercover in a carnival to find the undercover bozo. So a bozo has infiltrated the carnival, and you're now trying to get in there to uncover whatever plot that they've done, but everybody looks like clowns, so how do you find them?
Hell yeah, nice. Yeah, and PWB says, how about betting? Yeah, I mentioned that before. Any of these things, if it's in Cyberpunk, if it's a form of entertainment, you can most definitely find people betting on it in one way or another on all levels. You know, the people in the small bars or back alleys all the way up to corporations playing, placing professional bets through top level fixers and such. I could totally imagine that, but betting is involved with all of that, and with that comes all the different ways that it could be corrupt. You know, don't forget, like I mentioned earlier, the corruption and paranoia and danger is a huge part of Cyberpunk, and you want to have that involved within any form of entertainment if you can. Don't overdo it, obviously, to where it feels contrived or everything is fucked up and nobody wants to go or do anything, you know. But inside betting, corporate sponsors, murder, kidnapping, we touched base on, but all that, you know, think of all the different ways that betting can be manipulated. And I've done different, well, I'll get into the ways that I've incorporated some of that into campaigns. I'd rather go back to, I just want to name a couple other forms of entertainment, going from when I mentioned Body Lotto. Don't forget strip clubs and topless bars. I had those in a recent campaign, and that's always fun. You can come up with crazy names. I forget. One was like tits with slits, blokes with scrotes, jacks with sacks. Their competitors was blokes with scrotes. But yeah, strip clubs, topless bars, and that can, involve like Borgs and drones and weird shit, like people are in all kinds of stuff, holograms, like make it cyberpunk. And brain dance, both legal and illegal can involve that. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
There was a run on Night City Stories that had a strip club called the Cat's Meow, but all it was Cat Boys.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. We've moved a little bit from like sports as entertainment, and now we're talking about like consumptive entertainment in terms of brothels, strip clubs, dining, all of that type of stuff. So there's my number one thing with all these is, obviously I think this is an important part of representing like a gritty cyberpunk future, but like as always, make sure that you are operating on the same wavelength as your players when it comes to integrating sexual activity into your games. Know what they're cool with, what you're cool with, have your lines, have your veils, but within those veils you can tell a lot of stories regardless of how graphic you're trying to tell, right? Important things I think in like the storytelling of brothels and strip clubs is, one, I think they make just like cool settings for like the Yakuza dude draped up at the bar, right? Like or the type of place where you're going to get information that's very topical. But what about the people that are at those things? Like a lot of the times in modern era, and I would especially expect in type of Cyberpunk Red, like those people probably don't want to be there. Or maybe they do. Maybe that's the most profitable thing they found that's actually the safest. They have a bunch of people with guns surrounding them, keeping them safe, and this is the best bet. This was better than hooking on the street, right? Like, right.
Think about the stories that you tell with those people.
Yeah, I have a whole campaign I built around what I was calling the meat market, and they were following a trail where one of the players was trying to find missing friend's family and such, but it led to people being forced to do this fight club for Kid That Fixer and things, and other ones around Night City. Got him out of there, found out there is this meat market where they're selling people human trafficking for different things. His wife got sent to this back alley brothel that was actually owned by David Ling Poe, part of the Triads and shit. But when you got there, you realize, then you find out where the meat market was, so rescued her and it trailed off. And there, I lightly dabbled in this. I didn't get into graphic descriptions about all that, so just keep that in mind too, GMs. You know where your lines and veils and where your limits are with your players. Hopefully you had a really good session 0. If you need help with knowing how to do that, I have a crash course in the GM tips on the Cyberpunk Uncensored YouTube channel about session 0s and stuff. But yeah, one way just to get by that is, mention it, but just don't graphically get into things that are touchy. Spend that time with the other role-playing, the conversations, the things that are leading within plot. And just if things are a little touchy, make sure the players are okay with it prior, or just don't get into those descriptions, in deep description. But yeah, it led to this meat market, this thing. That's actually the one where Jimenez, the wrestler from Wandering DM, came and joined us. He went out to the meat market. He was actually trying to rescue someone from there as well, and they met up and helped each other kind of pull it off. But that involved a whole form of entertainment that was on the black market involving people, which was very dark and human trafficking style of plot. hooks and things. So you can see how quickly things can get dark, and how you can make them cyberpunk, but you want to make sure that, like, you know, like we said, you kind of go over stuff like that in a session 0 and make sure everybody is cool with it. But I've, you know, absolutely incorporated that into campaigns. And then I did one as well, since we were talking about like extracting people, where it was on my monthly one-shot, Save the Rocker Boy, and that's how I brought the Rocker Boy into the team, actually, was that they had to go and get this guy out because the corporation he worked for was trying to assassinate him because it was good for publicity and good for sales, you know. So they took him over and they were going there to extract him. So there's all kinds of ways that entertainment can kind of be the leading plot, or at least, I don't know, the driving environment that your plot is taking place in Cyberpunk. It's, you know, it can be very rich.
I have a very dystopian cyberpunk thing that I made for a Shadowrun campaign and never got to use, but I'm probably going to drop it into the Cyberpunk campaign. It was called the Meat Market unaffectionately, but basically the concept was a horrific critique of capitalism in which rich people could put up open offers in a marketplace to harm other people, and other people like would line up and accept those offers in exchange for medical care. So let's say some sicko wanted to break a young woman's arm. He could put up a thing for 900 eddies, and somebody would sign up and they could bid down or bid lower or whatever, for him to get the permission to go do that. And very much like the argument that you make to the players about like this is, oh, it's completely ethical, everybody's signing up for it. You know, it's a completely opt-in. This is normal, even though you know in your gut this is wrong. It's and it's because the situation has forced people to make the choice to sacrifice their bodies for other people's entertainment. But you can use that as the very cyberpunk critique of, look, when the universe has, you know, when the universe and the world has put you in this position, even though somebody's telling you it's your free will, it's really not, right? And that was going to be a setting basically around a young kid who has signed up to be essentially beaten to death in exchange to pay for his sister's release from this. But the runners had just broken her out, so now it's a race against the clock to get him before he gets to the room where he's already paid this contract, been paid to you know, allow this guy to kill him. So very much, yes. And Quincy, I actually watched Altered Carbon after thinking of this, but all it did was add to it the very much disposability of life, and the opt-in nature where, yes, you choose this life, but not really. All of the pressures of trying to live are forcing this debasement of the human form and the human life upon you.
Yeah, I did something similar to that with Brain Dance, and I got the idea from that movie. I think, what was it, Strange Days, or I'm forgetting the name of it. I can probably look it up real quick. But where you know, the killer was selling his you know, brain dance files of killing people, but this was voluntary in the same manner like you were describing. Yeah, Strange Days. I had it right. Okay. But yeah, same manner, but it was brain dance, and that's one thing I mentioned a moment ago, that it's a form of entertainment. You know, I picture like brain dance arcades, but again, don't forget that you can always cyberpunk it up. You know, there's maybe the public brain dance arcades and files that you can get at the local whatevers, and you know, it's like video games and things that are PG rated up to X or whatever, but there's also the illegal market where maybe it's stuff like what Lobster was just describing, you know, where it's people getting hurt or doing, you know, fucked up stuff, whether they agree to or not. Maybe there's some forms where they do agree, and it's that desperation that drives them to that because of how the economy is, especially in time of red. Or maybe it's more leaning on that meat market side where maybe it's not so voluntary, and that's all up to GMs. But you can kind of see here, you know, GMs, everybody watching, you can see how, wow, when it comes to entertainment, it's extremely dynamic, and there's just such diversity, and the spectrum goes wide depending on how you want to play it. And it's almost like every form of entertainment has all those options within it, almost, you know what I mean, of how you can play it out.
Cool. I think the next thing, which is a big category, is going to be like the traditional digital entertainment that exists within the time of Red.
Yeah, before before
go
we
ahead.
get into that, I want to mention one other. I have another. I was kind of playing off the brain dance, the Body Lotto battle bots, battle drones, that Nomad Death Race sort of vibe of danger. I also picture different forms of like Russian roulette. Like picture the movie Deer Hunter, that old classic, where they're like can't escape the Vietnam War in their heads and shit, and the one friend goes back to find the friend, and he's playing Russian roulette in these back rooms with all these businessmen sweating and smoking cigarettes and throwing money on tables and yelling and and betting on it. And I can totally picture things like that, and think of ways that you can again cyberpunk that up. Like maybe it's not Russian roulette, but maybe it's involving air hypos with different biotoxins, and which one is not going to be able to resist the effects. Or maybe it's like a net run and who can not burn out or get that seizure going on and nosebleeds. Or like think of creative ways to make that Russian roulette more cyberpunk.
How about a Netrunner Russian roulette where you're crossing the Great Wall, and it's how long
I
you
like
stay on the other side of the Great Wall.
Can I run?
It's 10 Netrunners enter, and the last one to leave wins.
I like that a lot. Like they found some system that actually has like a broken part, an access point or something to the old internet, and through that they've mapped out another broken system, but it's like it's going to take so many minutes to get across, and there's rabbits and things and black ice and all kinds of shit that can mess you up along the way. I like that idea. That's fun. It's like a Netrunner version. You could also make it game style. Like imagine like it being like some pirate, not pirate radio, but pirate video or televised thing where it's almost like got that Running Man vibe to it, but of Netrunners trying to like do the Running Man through the old net.
The other thing I was talking about with some folks the other day in terms of like exclusively cyberpunk entertainment was the idea of combat zone hood Olympics, and the idea of like a gang, like a gang leader gets together to be like, who are the best at crime.
I like that.
And it's not just shooting people, but like I had one where they took over an old bank in the old banking zone, rebuilt it like it was completely working, like it's still screwed up, but like restaffed it, and then basically had different gangs hit to the bank for time, to like who could rob a bank fastest, or like a hustle one where they gave whoever signed up 50 fake watches, and whoever sold the most fake watches in an hour in different parts of like upscale parts of the city won.
I like that, creative ways to kind of pull that off. Yeah, and I wanted to mention too, when I mentioned the Running Man, GM Jack, who streams for Cyberpunk Uncensored. You can see his recent stream that went VOD on the YouTube channel. He did a one-shot called The Dying Man, where he just had two players. They were both solos, and he put them through this game show that was like hosted by this crazy guy, and it was just like Running Man but Dying Man, but kind of played out as a one-shot. So he did that. The other thing too, and this is before we get on to like different media style entertainment stuff, is I wanted to mention, great for rocker boys, all types, but battles of the bands, and think of that literally as well. Like it can be just like combat soccer or combat derby and shit like that. You can think of maybe there's battle of the bands with performing, and it's like competing for performance roles and such like that, or corporate sponsored competitions, and there's potential for corruption, betting, all that sort of stuff. But also think about making that battle of the bands like a literal battle. That could be a lot of fun.
A run on NCS by GM Some Hippies. Shout out. He's not watching, but I'll make him watch the VOD later. Nice. He did a battle of the bands where at the beginning of the battle of the bands, a group of literal like Warhammer fantasy dwarves with giant mohawks and axes first attacked the bands while the battle of the bands was going on, and the two guitarists were hooked up, and as fans cheered for one or the other one started being electrocuted to death based on and so if you were rocking out harder than the other guy started getting electrocuted to death because you were like revving up the crowd, and vice versa. And they actually competed until one of the I think it was until one of them blacked out, but it might have been died.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Like Cyberpunk Battle of the Bands type
yeah.
rocker battle.
And yeah, and okay, so let's move on to like digital stuff. I'm gonna mention what's in Cyberpunk Red and that Network 54, obviously, when it comes to like media entertainment style stuff. But I do want to remind chat, by all means, if there's something you want to mention, whether it be sports or violence or any of the things we've already covered, something came to mind, put it out there. We have no problem bouncing around subjects. We're here to talk about all kinds of entertainment in Night City. We are trying to keep it organized or talk about it in sections, but man, as things come to your mind, we want to talk about it, put it up in chat. The more the better. The more ideas, the better. This is all about helping GMs and players, just have more lore and more shit to think about and work with in their game, So the more the better. But moving on, I did want to mention, with digital media and stuff, obviously the number one and the thing listed in Cyberpunk Red is Network 54, N54, and they have, a list there in the sidebar, which I think is pretty cool, of like at any given moment you'll see, these typical shows, and it talks about cooking with kibble, in different ways that they're working with kibble. I think it's even a competition or something. Then there's the Elflands Online Chronicles, which sounds like it's a netrunner that gets sucked into like D&D realm,
Yeah.
And then there's the Hot Zone Divers, which I guess they said it isn't really nomads or really scavenging in the hot zone. It's more treated like, it's probably like how reality TV is now. Like it's not really reality. It's all fucking scripted, So it's they probably, I get that vibe there. And then La Pasión Dorada, so it's like their telenovela, their equivalent. But the thing I want to mention in Net 54, and I think you mentioned it, Lobster, you kind of lightly talked about, I think when we talked about sports and independent, I don't know, earlier in this episode you mentioned, but it reminds me of Net 54 in that description when they talk about how, there's these like more popular international broadcasts and shows that are loved by everyone, but there's also like regional shows, and I picture that's, just like in real life, they're appealing to different demographics and markets and such, and maybe different sponsors. And again, like just like all entertainment, you can think of different ways that can be corrupt. Corporations, people fighting for the best ad space, the best viewership, all that sort of stuff comes into play when I think of stuff like that. But yeah, I'll let, before I run at the mouth for half an hour about Net 54, and digital entertainment, you take the mic, because I know you had some thoughts about all that too.
Yeah, so with the big thing is like with digital entertainment, there's like a couple of tiers to think about the same way with entertainment sports. So Network 54 is the top. That's the big one. That's the most, corporate approved media, right? Now, not talked about in the Red Core book, but talked about pretty extensively in the 2020 book is diverse media systems, who's Network 54's primary competitor. And they're interesting because Network 54 is like straight edge, right? They're very much like pure corporate. They're going to be like running your regional news shows and your standard blockbuster TV and all that kind of stuff. But Diverse Media Systems, DMS, they created and distributed the first Brain Dances. They're like running the super popular stuff, like that's really mid-tier, that's still very cool and underground. So you have two canon media corporations that are constantly at one another's throats. It says that they fight just as much, if not worse, than Arasaka and Militech. So think about like how bloody that is, as competing media empires within the same space.
Oh yeah, and I think someone in there said, it's Jenny, I hope they still exist. And yeah, there's not a lot of mention of N54 competition and things, but just like in all of it, it says incorporate your own neocorps and things, which I have done. That's where our IMG, the indie media group I created for our one shot, came from. And that's actually the company we're putting out the stream sheets under. So when you get our stream sheets that we're putting out, it's actually by IMG from the Edge. But yeah, I'm sure as things expand, we'll get more and more lore, more books are going to be coming out. But yeah, go on. Sorry about that. I wanted to interject that.
Jenny, I think it's safe to say that DMS still exists because it is technically on the cover of the core book. If you look, they have a sign that says DMS, Diverse Media Systems.
Oh, perfect.
So it's in the background. But that would be...
oh yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Real small and yellow back there.
Yeah, that's actually, if you see that stylistically, that's where NCS got the inspiration for their logo.
Nice.
But that's, yeah.
I'm reporting you to the trademark police. That's bullshit, dude. How dare you? No.
Look, we're punk like that. All right.
Hell yeah.
But the, yeah, but so, at least there's a hint that maybe they exist, but I think that's pretty cool. So you can look at look at those two as competing media empires. If you want stories about being a media or an agent, like the whole thing is like, a lot of punk stories with media are about selling out, but just as important as selling out is who you sell out to, right? So if you have somebody who's selling out to a big media corporation, maybe it's N54 and DMS both competing, right? To get this person to sell out, or maybe they're both trying to sponsor this new up and coming, rocker boy or idol or whatever. Maybe they're competing for your media has this film of this whatever, some cool event going down, and now you're trying to sell it, get a bidding war between these two media empires on who gets to buy it. All of those are good reasons to, in your campaign, I think, to have two mega conglomerates that both are fighting one another, because it gives whenever two parties have a contest, it makes it really interesting for the third party on how you interact with that, rather than just directly confronting one. So adds a little, leverage there.
Oh yeah, no cause for conflict right there, direct. And there's lots of ways that you can play that. By putting that competition there, it puts a lot of tension there. But what is I want to make sure we don't miss some of these comments. I see there's one highlighted here. Direct to me. What would be wicked is a WandaVision kind of situation, a town bought out by a corp or a gang to live and stream a sitcom, and they can't leave unless the production says they can, or the opposite, getting kicked out if they don't bring enough audience and or advertisement revenue. Yeah, anything you can think of with entertainment, that definitely makes it cyberpunk, like the whole forced situation and all that. That's funny. A lot of the competition shows out here kind of run that way here in LA, when you get on these, not reality shows, but like competitions and whatever. I had a friend that was doing that face-off thing where they do the special effects, and like he was in there for months, and you can't take your cell phone, you can't get online, you can't talk to anybody for months, and until it's done, because they don't want to give away who won or what's going on till it streams, because of sponsors, and they want people tuning in to the actual show, But yeah, and the other thing, kind of springboarding off of what Lobster Falcon was saying about, the competition and trying to break a story, to me, like that digital form of entertainment, like, yeah, it's the entertainment side, but it's on that news side where, like, is the power. I did a breakdown, I don't know if it was the media breakdown with James Hutt. I don't know if that's where we talked about that. It might have been somewhere else, but I think when we did a media breakdown before the book came out and before all that, you'd have to like scroll in their old videos. It was like a cool little reveal about media before Cyberpunk Red came out, and he talked about how media is set up in such a way where it's like, you might be going on these sessions and doing these things and breaking these cases or evidence or doing stuff with your team, and you're winning these battles, but the media has the potential to actually win the war. Like the power behind like a high-ranked media and working with some of these entertainment outlets can instantly get story out, and if the credibility is there and you can actually have people believing it, like you can bring down a top-level corporation, you can help shift the balance of some sponsorship money in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. You can really, get involved with some big world-building manipulation there if you're, when you're in media, and if you're tactful, if you're that type of creative player. When it comes to creative players, well, before I get into creative players and stuff, was there anything you wanted to interject about that? Let's keep talking about the digital media stuff. Yeah,
a couple of the other things I think that is a little bit neglected is the most important venue for entertainment for the average person in Night City is going to be your agent. And so your agent, I'm talking about like the cell phone-esque device, right? But don't think about that as like your all-in-one entertainment device. And think about how media is going to be shared, consumed, or distributed via agent. Because with that, you're signing up to stuff in the data pool, you're tuning into, different sat feeds, you're watching network programming, you're consuming pop media, music, podcasts, video, scream sheets. All of that is going to primarily be viewed through your agent. So think about how important an agent is to people, and what format that media is going to be in when it happens in the right spot. Something like that. Think about how important your agent is contextually for individuals and your runners, and what media consumption means. Because with this in mind, like especially think about the lifestyle of average people, they probably don't have a TV, right? But they might have an agent. So think about like phone games or agent games are probably super popular. They're a huge niche of entertainment consumption. Short videos, whatever the Night City equivalent of TikTok is, or like really short, viral-esque content, because so many independent players are competing. You have the like broadcast. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say like a scavenger geo hunt sort of thing,
Yeah. Yeah, I could imagine, the whatever Night City TikTok channel of look what I found, and it's just dude opening dumpsters in the combat zone and like showing you what's inside. Like it's 30-second clips of dudes opening weird dumpsters, right? Like,
right.
But then you also have like curated Martha Stewart vineyards of like somebody in the fancy corporate zone showing you how to grow petunias. So you can think about when you have independent, like when you have broadcast and corporate power, you're gonna have like shows in blocks, right? You're gonna think about like they'll have a couple of specific shows. They're not gonna intentionally compete with one another. They'll maybe have some like themed groups, but then also at the lower level with all these independent people, they're gonna be ruthlessly competing head to head for the exact same eyes with more content that's curated specifically for a more niche audience, and that's what's gonna make it interesting. So your big shows are gonna have Cooking with Kibble. That's sponsored by Continental Brands and all this kind of stuff. But you might have a media that's a celebrity chef, or a rocker boy that's a celebrity chef that just records videos of them like cooking with weird ingredients that they just stole, and they advertise, and they cook in a freaking balaclava. Be like, yeah, I just jacked this from Rockland Augmetics, high-end research facility. We're gonna eat live mutated lobster, like some shit like that. So you can just think about weird niche content that originates from the data pool.
And when you think of shows too, you can also twist up some pop culture shit from the past and make it like a rebirth of some retro stuff. Like I've seen that meme going around. We've actually dabbled in some ideas here with some script writers in recent time, but something along the Friends line in that logo, Friends, but says choombas. I don't know if you want to see that, because it's great, But Quincy Forder here in chat says cancel culture times a million. I don't want to dabble too much in like real life politics and shit going on, especially in this day and age with cancel culture and the implications that can go in those conversations. But I will say, I do get what you're saying there, and it is very cyberpunk if played a certain way. If you're looking at like, maybe manipulating what information they're giving to public or to certain tiers of economy, maybe, like certain people get certain inside information or certain stuff where others don't. Or maybe you play into some actual cancel culture things involving with, full-on cultures, ethnicities, or gangs or whatever. But again, I suggest you make sure you have a proper session 0. You work out with your players what they're comfortable with, because when you start dabbling in shit like that, if you don't completely alter it a lot to pull it away from where the real life influence is coming from, it'll feel too real life, and then people might get offended, or it might, I don't know, be a trigger or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally what it comes down to is the concept of cancel culture is that there are repercussions for saying things, regardless of whether or not you think that's the case, right? And the repercussions for saying things in Cyberpunk Red are a media clapping back. Or repercussions for doing things, right? Mm-hmm. So the cool thing about media, like you touched on, Rob, is that's the only person who can hold large entities accountable. Solos can shoot as many people in the face as they want to, and they're going to recruit more goons from your own neighborhood that you're going to be shooting. But the media is the one with the transformative power to hold people accountable, to hold powerful people accountable and powerful corporations accountable to whatever actions that they do. So yeah, when you want to do the equivalent of make someone's post go viral so people see what they did, that's going to be your media doing it, and it's going to be pivotal, I think, to changing your Night City.
Oh yeah, that's the big, like I said, it's not the battle, it's the war at that point. It has the potential of being a big game changer. Fixers got power like that too. Absolutely, fixers are they're the dealers of information. They're networkers. They can absolutely sell some information, but again, that information is only as credible as the media has their rankability to back it up. So like again, a fixer can get information and be tapped into cultures and things. But if it's going to be significant to like a big, newsworthy story or something that requires actual like evidence or breaking a case or something along those lines, it's always going to involve a media, because you're going to need that credibility, you're going to need the evidence, all that stuff comes into play. And anybody interested in learning about stuff like that, on the Cyberpunk Uncensored YouTube, like I said, I've made a crash course tutorial series about all the mechanics of Cyberpunk Red, including all the different role and rank ability breakdowns. So you can go check that out and learn all about media to understand what I'm talking about. But I imagine, like everybody here in chat, everyone seems to be on board with Cyberpunk Red. Every time we talk about it, everyone's chiming in like they get it. So I'm really excited about that. It didn't take long before people got on board with Cyberpunk Red, got involved with the rules and are really hungry for more lore and stuff. And I see Val, my beautiful wife, says back. Parentheses working, so I guess she's still at work, but she's tuning in a little bit. I love it. Thanks for getting it in while you can.
One thing in the chat, Rue Shady says you could shame a corp into stop doing something only if the person you're targeting ain't a sociopath. And what I want to talk about is what don't think about it as shame. Shame requires like personal honor and integrity. Corporations aren't people, though. In the world of faces, they have a little bit of that.
Not shame, shareholders. Like.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry, I was meaning to.
Oh, but what you're doing when you're thinking about interacting with corporations and changing their behavior is you need to think in terms of the economics of attention, which is is it more expensive for them to change their behavior or continue the status quo? And in a default environment, when they're doing shitty things, it's much more expensive to change their behavior. But if you make the status quo very expensive, then they're likely to change their behavior. And that's what the power of media is all about, is it makes the status quo costly in some way, whether that's loss of sales, whether that's police attention, whether that's legislative attention, anything like that. So think about making the status quo expensive to force either political or large-scale corporate change.
That's a great point to make. And remember that most GMs at that point, it's always going to be cheaper for them to send out an assassin hit squad after you just shut your mouth. And, you know what I mean? That's always going to...
Well, and so we actually had that discussion at a run that I was a part of, which the start of the run was Not Bob blowing up our houses. So thanks, Not Bob. The title of the run was called Knock Knock, and we opened with a breaching charge on the front of our facility as a corp goon squad came in to kill us all. But very cyberpunk, it was good. However, the one thing that we had a discussion of is after the second goon squad got sent to us, the guy was like, "I hate you, you killed my best men," and our solo responded with, "Well, if those are your best men, then clearly you need my card. So one, send him his card to hire me later. But two, I think we're too expensive for you to pursue now. So keep that in mind. We don't want to keep costing you money. Your hubris is costing you money, and costing you expensive people. So even in like lower level role play that's not at the corporate level, think about like what your behavior is doing right now, NPC, is costing you a lot of money and a lot of blood and a lot of time and energy, and just paying me 5,000 ebbies to go away is a lot cheaper than me wiping out your next goon squad again. So you can make it, you can use the cyberpunk leverage back on the GM.
Oh yeah. That reminds me of something like you just said, using that leverage back on the GM. One thing I don't see a lot of players do. I mean, some players do, I've seen some really creative tactics in role-playing and maneuvers when it comes to plots and making their way through and maneuvering through a campaign and throwing some crazy curveballs. However, when it comes to like entertainment, and especially like on the betting side of things, let's not forget how players can be just as corrupt or twisted or as dynamic as these NPCs and these plot twists are. I did a recent one-shot where the team was out at this nomad camp, and there was a Thunderdome sort of situation while the team was doing this. They were supposed to do an auction, talk to the guy running the auction who's running the camp to buy this code from them, which was really fun. I don't even want to tell you how that turns out. It ended extremely crazy. A couple crazy things happened, but they were debating on taking that money before buying the code and like, oh, let's go bet on the Thunderdome. Our rocker boy's in there and we'll bet against him because he's probably not going to do good. And he was like, no, I'm going to do good. And he was really trying. And it was like, man, why wouldn't you just, try to throw it? Yeah, like just take the hit, take the fall, double that 100 grand or 200 grand into, a $500,000 or whatever you can do, and go big and go crazy. But it requires some twisted thinking on the role player's side, where you're almost out of character in a tactful way. It's almost living outside of your alignment, if there was alignment in Cyberpunk, so to speak. You know what I mean? Where like, are you meta-ing that, or are you really role playing it proper? And to me, I think when it's Cyberpunk, anything can go. So I always think like, man, if you can be creative with it. I talk about that in a recent thing with like Tex and when I do the deep dive series on different roles, how think creative, think of ways to manipulate things and not just do it at face value. Like, oh, this is how it works, this is what it is. I see corporations doing this and referees and everyone else is corrupt, but I'm not going to be like, why not? Manipulate stuff too. Be creative with it.
I have a medtech named Valkyrie, who's a former military medtech, and how I play her is I am always willing to take stupid people's money, and the very much like, I'm here to do a job, but also if somebody's like, all right, I'm gonna trust you to do this, and it's like some corporate goon, you could be like, okay, yeah, sure, give me the money, and then just walk away. Fuck them. What are they gonna do? Find me in the combat zone? No, you're not. And very much like, it's being encouraged. So much of Cyberpunk is like encouraging people to be gritty, and this is outside the context of entertainment, but I always try and make being good costly. Like, I want to wear down players' morality by making them make hard choices to be good, right? Because so many times it's like, oh, I'm going to be the good guy, it's going to be great. It's like, no, I want you to leave a ton of money on the table. I want you to cry as the pile of Evie's
Right.
the easy money, because that's what it costs to be punk in a hard world.
Or make being that good guy maybe sometimes really just the lesser of evils.
Yeah.
Like you said, really push some moral, the morality of the character, not player, but the character.
Yeah. So, all right. Sorry, that was a deviation from the content really quick. Let's see, do we want to jump back in? Did you have anything else specific you want to talk about, or we can jump back into like other digital media stuff?
No, more about digital media I think is good. I keep pulling it back to like the betting, the corruption, and involves all forms of entertainment, but by all means, we were getting into the digital media aspect of things, of entertainment. More thoughts on that, more things. But again, anybody in chat, if you do want to backtrack subjects, no problem. Put questions, ideas in there. We'll get to it.
Yeah. So one of the big things, like, I want to keep going back to the data pools. I think the data pool is the most interesting and unique part of digital entertainment in Cyberpunk Red, because it's so different from what we have today. It's geographically isolated digital content that's essentially free to post, right? So it's like, imagine if your Twitter only extended to the edges of your city. And what different environments that would create in each different city, and how unique that could be, and how at that size individual people could go viral so much easier. But then with that, the most interesting thing in that thing is also, people don't think of Ziggurat as a media company, but Ziggurat is actually one of the biggest media companies in the world, because they run the data pools for each city. So how can you influence media controlling, at the Ziggurat level, where they're supposedly like just independent hosting, but could there be plots and stories about how they're promoting or, increasing content sharing by different people?
Yeah, I incorporated Ziggurat. They're known for making more money selling the information that they gather off these data pools than the actual apps and things they sell on these data pools and things they promote through advertising. It's all about collecting data, as you can imagine. Look at Facebook, social media, and all the things that have gone on in our time. Now think about how crazy it can go. Projected into the future in this cyberpunk world. But I did a whole thing where it was when Aerozeps collide, and that was kind of the beginning of this campaign. These Aerozeps collide over the city. There's still plot within that can be revisited. The company wants them to still figure out why and how it happened. But regardless, they collide. It's Rockland. A bunch of their shit goes down over the city and everywhere, and city's in chaos. Everyone trying to get all these cyberware and things and shit from Rockland, that crashed down. But the team was trying to, one of them worked for Rockland, who was trying to have them break into this company, Neocorp, called Source, to figure out who sold them the information of where the different tracking devices, where cargo went down in different parts of the city and off the coast and was washing up. And it was Ziggurat. They were harvesting information and tracking things and what people were posting and such, and they were selling the information to Source. And the team that worked for Rockland had to go and find that out. They wanted them to find out, but one of the other team members worked for Ziggurat, who was telling them, go to Source, drop this virus off in their system to erase all evidence of Ziggurat being involved or selling that information, because we know Rockland's looking for who fucking sold that shit. So like they were kind of torn between the team, because one worked for Rockland, one worked for Ziggurat, and they're both, one wants to find out who Ziggurat did it, one Ziggurat wants to cover it up from them. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, Ziggurat, 100%, they have a lot of power and a lot of potential with campaign ideas and plot twists because of the fact that they're known for selling information and the data they collect.
Yeah. Along with like the data pool, which I think is really cool. Think of pirate radio and pirate TV, especially with the sat feeds. So I think one of the coolest parts of the High Riders, the folks who live in space, is the fact that they have and run like pirate satellite patch-ups where they'll sell basically bandwidth to whoever to broadcast satellite TV and satellite radio outside of like the primary network connections. And that's where you're going to get the true like unfiltered global truth, or whatever, unfiltered global information that doesn't have to pass through corporate or, government censors. And so think about how...
and hold your thought. I don't want to interrupt and throw you off, but also think of the other end of that spectrum. That's also where you're going to get, the crazy conspiracy theorists and people like talking about, make sure you put on your foil helmets today because whatever is transmitting. You get the point. But yeah, go on. Sorry.
I think I think you like, at least for thinking about like a High Rider satellite patch up, I'm thinking that's going to be a little bit more sophisticated. That probably costs a little more money. So you might not get like your local guy on a bench screaming about aliens, right? That's probably going to be like a local broadcast, which still exists because like there's still just like broadcast TV on like AM, FM, radio stuff, right? So that type of thing is going to like still occur. I definitely think you'll tune in at 3 a.m. to a guy describing to you that of course Biotechnica has replaced all the birds with robots and they're all watching him. Like he might not be wrong, but he sounds like a crazy person. But then like the High Rider sat feeds are going to be like maybe like an organized information collective, right? You have some group out of Laos who organizes and gathers all the information going on in China and broadcasts information globally about the truth.
Master Beefy got in chat. I think about the Rue previous comment possibly, but he says, yeah, those crazy theorists. It's funny because in my monthly ongoing, he plays a media. He just had to make a new character. A previous one had a bit of a situation, but his new character is a media that is like borderline crazy. Like he's following leads and stuff, but he also thinks like there's lizard people and other things going on. And he mentions, are they wearing helmets? He's always asking if people like that you're talking about NPCs if they're wearing helmets and stuff like that. There's a whole thing. But anyways,
obviously you need to protect them from the gamma waves. So along with these type of kind of broadcasting things, we touched also a little bit on the agent and how important the agent is for consumption and stuff like that. Let's see, where was I going with this? Sat feeds, broadcasts, braindance, agent. With the agent, we're also talking a little bit about gaming and like the popularity of online gaming. You're going to get tons of that through your agent, but also streaming of like esports and things like that. But what kind of special, and then we talked a little bit about netrunner sports, right? Netrunners are going to have decks, cyber decks. They're going to be operating at a significantly higher level than what you can compete on with an agent. And they likely wouldn't be just games. But think about how you can make like netrunner and tech games significantly more cyberpunk and electronic, right? Maybe netrunners are competing where they actually have built a netrunner bar has built a net architecture that has like incredibly powerful ice all the way down, and the only purpose of it is to run to the bottom, and if you get to the bottom of it, you add your name to the file at the bottom that broadcasts winners, and that puts you like on a bar. So on the bar you have a list of winners, that type of thing.
I recently made a system that kind of just is a straight dive of ice where it's like you want to slide, but then you're dealing with like giants and krakens, things that either if they hit you, you can't move on, or they unsafely force you jacked out, and I did something similar. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's actually upcoming session I'll be doing. But yeah, I love creative ideas like that and ways to kind of play it, and most definitely it's incorporated into the form of entertainment. You want to think creatively within that form of entertainment. Just like we said, there's these sports can be multifaceted and kind of hit on ends of spectrum, from big corp arena, big stadium level, down to little dive bar, back alley level versions. You can think of the same way with some of these digital formats, whether it's like the pirate stations and low level, or even all jokes aside, guy just on the soapbox on the corner crazy screaming some news, like he's the verbal squire or whatever you call it. He's like the vocal scream sheet,
Yeah.
The literal scream sheet, but yeah, always think about that, GMs, when you're thinking about the entertainment, that it can be kind of I don't want to say manipulated, but played with, like you said, like cyber decks of those netrunners involved with that form of entertainment or that sport or whatever might have different versions or souped up or whatever boosted versions of the typical cyber deck or programs, maybe some custom things made and stuff that's incorporated into that form of entertainment. But I think aside from sports and real life, like in-person physical stuff, like there's going to be the bars, there's going to be the sports and the things that we touched on earlier, because those are all great means for encounters and plots and things that happen. But absolutely, you need to incorporate digital aspects of entertainment. If you can pull it into plot hooks in ways that it's incorporated into your campaign, the better. But at least to be an element in your world as part of the world building, because it's going to be a huge part. Look at how even just nowadays, how important digital media is as a form of entertainment and everything that we do, from Netflix, Hulu, and all these apps and things, in the future, it's going to be even more. And then when you get into something like Cyberpunk, where it's this dark dystopian future, this fantasy, this realm, this world created, it's going to be prevalent. It's going to be dominating. Look at the imagery, not just when the video games started getting hype, but even the pre, like, just cyberpunk art in general. When you think about that stuff, and the movies and whatever, where it's entering the city, it's all these holograms, and I don't know, it's just very digital, So I feel like with entertainment, there's going to be a huge presence of digital entertainment. Imagine Cyberpunk, Dark Souls, the video game stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be esports.
I was imagining Cyberpunk Dark Souls, but it's just a dude going through a castle with a bunch of cameras on it, trying not to die, like Running Man.
Yeah, I had
real.
Yeah, I was running my previous team. I don't know if it was Team Spicy, the ongoing one that we're up to like 20 something sessions is Team Nameless, but Team Spicy, they only made it a few sessions. They couldn't, a couple of the players had to cancel. They couldn't make schedule, but I don't know if it was that or if it was the Red 2020 combo I was streaming prior to that, before I got the advanced copy of Red. But my buddy Mickey made a solo character that was all about live streaming and recording. So like before he would enter combat, he would delegate where his combat points were, and then you would click record or live stream to the local data port or what data stream or whatever we would make it, so it would be the equivalent of live streaming, even though there's no like internet access, so like he was, I guess, had a touch of rocker boy maybe media or whatever, because he would kind of use that as evidence and leverage and things within role play. It not like it was part of the role ability or any type of rank association, but it was part of his character, and I thought that was really creative, that anytime he would enter combat, he would hit the live stream, and he had like fans that were all about it, because it was like real life GTA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's pretty sweet. Let's see. Did we have a question here?
Great ideas. I want to keep thinking of ways that netrunners might want to try to one-up each other for street cred. Exactly. No, I think the whole entertainment aspect to net runners seems like a really fun idea. I really like the idea of, you know, finding a breaking point in some system where it still has old school internet access, and you can break the wall and get out on another point. They have to make the run across or whatever. I really like that idea. I think there's like potential to come up with something fun and crazy for that. Is there a thing like real-time brain dance? Okay, so yeah, why not just make that your own? You know, as a GM, it's kind of the equivalent of that live stream maybe, and maybe there's some, maybe it's not allowed, it's not proper, it's not morally correct to be in it in real time, because it can't be filtered and censored or controlled, because at that point anything kind of crazy or fucked up could happen, and you'd experience it, you'd see it. But maybe it's like some back alley brain dance sort of spot, you know what I mean, where they've figured out some live transmission version of it, if that's what you mean when you say, is there a thing of real time brain dance? I'm imagining like it's happening in real time, so it's live, you know.
Yeah. Imagine you, for your campaign, you create a piece of ware that is a modified brain dance recorder that's also a brain dance broadcaster, right? Like for extra 500 EBs and some more whatever, humanity loss. Not only can this record, but this can also broadcast.
The ultimate reality show voyeurism or whatever, right?
And now you're running, like Ready Player One type stuff, right? Where people can hop in and ride along while you're doing this. Or I could see this, we touched on sports above, instead of just watching your football game from live, you actually like jack in and you are the quarterback because they're about to take the field.
Oh yeah, and Master Beefy, GM Jack. Master Beefy not only is in my monthly one shot, who is playing the character that had a situation. Now he has the new media. I don't want to say too much in case anyone's catching up on those sessions and wants to watch those one shots on the Cyberpunk Uncensored YouTube. But he's also GM Jack. He streams with us. He's the one earlier when I mentioned doing a version of the Running Man called the Dying Man. He was the one that was GMing that session. But he asked her, I got a question. Since brain dance is reusable in mobile, why hasn't it replaced drugs? And that's a good point, but I would have to say maybe it doesn't have, nothing is perfect within that. And even though like brain dance is supposed to be like that experience and like you're living through, maybe there's something to that. And obviously it's GM discretion and you can make it however you want. But I would argue to say that since that's there, you can't just get like the utopia or the great feeling from some drug put into a brain dance and reuse it to get that good feeling. Maybe it doesn't tap into the right neural processors of your brain that handle like the full-on euphoric feelings or something. Maybe it's somewhat limited, just like any type of digital format, you know what I mean, or
Jenny,
media.
In the chat is that brain dance viewers are 1,000 EBs, so the vast majority of people don't have them. They're going to be in theaters and things like that. It's not like you can just sit there and brain dance on your stoop or whatever, like you could smoke a joint. So only the rich are going to have access to brain dance viewers and purchase that as access. The other thing is like from a storytelling aspect, Shadowrun ran into this with BDLs as like a storytelling where their equivalent of brain dances became ubiquitous and became the worst drug epidemic of all time, right? People just got locked into loops and died. In your world, if brain dance viewers become more available, or maybe they can just be like consumed if all you have is a Neuralink or something like that, maybe that's an epidemic that's a drug epidemic that's sweeping your Night City. That's a really interesting kind of storytelling aspect. But I think that just if
like PWB, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
In the time of the Red, I think it's just too expensive to be purely ubiquitous, even if it is like really addicting or really interesting. Yeah,
and for me, I think I wouldn't just rely on the expensive aspect. I would put something in there, and PWB says, physical addiction needs physical contact, and that plays into kind of what I was saying. There's something to doing the drugs that just brain dance and digital just cannot replace. It's almost like people that would argue about digital media not replacing holding a real comic book in their hand, or like, there's like those certain things that digital can't replace, and it's like 4K is actually like, there's 8K cameras and 16K they're working towards, and things like better than your eyeballs vision. Like you can get beyond 2020 now with surgery, and like, you know what I'm saying? So like, it depends on how you want to play that. Can you say, okay, Braindance is so advanced, like, yes, it can replace that if you can afford it, it's that type of thing. Or do you want to say, yeah, physical addiction needs that physical contact. It needs to be actually touching the physical drugs. There's some type of thing that happens that you can't explain, just like your kinetic energy that keeps you alive, sometimes being described as a soul or just a heat source or whatever, whether you're religious or atheist or however you want to describe that. And I don't want to get into real life theology and stuff, but you get my point. It's up to you, GM discretion, how you want to play that out, But I like how PWB kind of says physical addiction needs physical contact.
So Mr. Beefy
and
asked,
a chemical addiction. It's physical. Sorry, but go on.
Mr. Beefy asks, his players wanted to use a Braindance viewer while dreaming to train skills, so ignoring balance issues. What are the thoughts and possibility of 24 hours a day of productivity? I think a person would want to eventually kill themselves.
Yeah, you can't do that.
You're not getting REM sleep if your brain is active. So if you're not getting REM sleep when your brain is active, that means you're eventually going to wear out, burn out, and die.
Right.
So I think that's actually a cool set piece for Cyberpunk, where a corporation has tried to train people 24 hours a day to maximize their productivity, only to turn them into like every time that they do that, after the second night or something like that, incurs like 3 humanity loss until they lose their fucking minds.
Yeah. There has to be repercussions to that, because it's tapping too close to real. You can't be productive 24/7, regardless if you're brain dancing during your quote-unquote sleep, because you're not really sleeping through brain dance.
Anyone who's had low quality sleep for an extended period of time knows how it burns through your body. Like, it just, you are not a whole functioning person if your sleep sucks for
unless you're like me. You've got problems. You're hypermanic. I sleep in I sleep in 3-hour increments every night. I sleep 3 hours, I get up, I work for a few hours, I crash for another 3 hours, then I'm up and I do my day.
You sleep for 3 hours, which is the exact time for a single human REM cycle.
Oh, exactly. Well, I've always said that there's something to that. When I hit that REM cycle and I get to that sort of past the theta to the delta dream state, and I get to that point, something fucking wakes me up, because every time I hit that, it's right around that 3-hour mark, something fucks me up. There's something to that. Maybe some damage. Let's have a psychological moment and talk about this. I'm kidding. But and real quick before it moves on, Valerie, thank you so much. My beautiful wife, she said she's got to get going. Both of you are doing a great job. I really appreciate that.
Bye, Val.
I guess she's got to get back to work before she gets into trouble. Quincy Forder, hell yes. Like, now it's 2:36 a.m. here right now, wherever Quincy is, and yet I'm fully awake, waiting for my Voltaren patch to kick in. Oh yeah. PWB deep dive, Rob's dreaming. Exactly. I have a lot of books on that. I'm really into like lucid dreaming and stuff like that. I love studying the science of parapsychology.
On you with lucid dreaming, I did a stint of very extensive prep for it and did 5 we'll argue the difference between lucid dreaming and astral projection in a later episode, but did about 5 or 6 months of that with a very intense practice, which was really transformative for me.
Hell yeah. I'm heavily into that. I've been studying it since I was a kid. I even majored in the science of parapsychology at a college I had an academic scholarship to back in the day. Private college, ranked at like number 8 in the country as well. So, and no joke college, But I'm heavily into that. We do a completely different episode, like PWB jokes, but we'll do a deep dive on it. I actually do now I'm starting up like a weekly AMA, a sort of Ask Me Anything session. It's like a live Game Master tips, but I also talk about my experiences as a filmmaker, touring musician, entrepreneur, all the businesses and things. It'd be great to maybe do a combo AMA, me and you, or just a weird side session. We can talk about metaphysical stuff and all that stuff. But back to Night City Entertainment.
Right. I apologize.
I'll totally go on tangents and talk about all kinds of crazy shit. I'm like that. I can get scatterbrained quick.
So suggestion for the next topic. I have a list of the 5 canon bars. Do you maybe want to go through the 5 canon bars in Cyberpunk Red and just see kind of... all right, so the first one is in Little Europe. We actually, chat mentioned it in a second. Short Circuit. It's a favorite haunt of techs and netrunners. It's not uncommon to find patrons of the ball hauling rec tech in from the hot zone to tinker within the booths. Zarifa drones at the door keep people from hauling in anything too dangerous. So this is a cool tech bar that's like not your traditional one. this is the type of bar where I might see has that high scoreboard on the wall where you have to get as far as you can into the architecture to get your name on there, and it gets you a free drink or something.
Yeah, I love that.
Maybe that's where you do a cool meet to like go to find a scav that's going into the hot zone to buy some like crazy weird scavenge tech. Or maybe it's like a midpoint in your run where you're looking to, you ask your GM, all right, I do a library search. I'm trying to find where I can find someone who can tell me what to do with this, whatever, MacGuffin piece of technology. And of course they tell you, man, you go down to the short circuit, you go to the bartender, you ask for quick zip, and he takes you to the back where you meet up with a guy whose specialty is like identifying weird stuff. What else do you think you might find in short circuit or tech bar like
definitely.
that?
And that plays a little bit into like that first episode we're talking about like places, things, and services too. Everyone check out that episode. And this is kind of a slight addition of that too with the campaign ideas there. But I think when it comes to entertainment, I think leaning heavily into the digital side when it comes to short circuit and a netrunner style bar, it's got to have lots of esport digital versions of things. I love your idea of the, see how deep you can get, to get your name on the board, whether free drink or something or reward. I don't know. There's something to that, but I think no matter what, being netrunner style bar, being short circuit in the name and the way it is, it's got to have plenty of digital entertainment, things to do. I don't picture it like old school retro, like pool tables and darts and smoky, like a nomad bar on the outskirts of Badlands. It's more analog than digital, if you will. I feel like this is going to be holograms and I don't know, very cyber style, if stylized.
What if they had a like a big hologram rink where you jacked into decks on either side, and it was netrunners like fighting, but it was like virtual, and you had you were like whatever a specific type of ice that were like boxing style to
Netrunner
do like
Fight Club, like a Netrunner Fight Club. I love that idea. It's a great idea. But yeah, any version of sports and things that you can think of and things, creative ideas like that, push it digital as much as possible when you're thinking that short circuit bar. I definitely recommend that.
Does chat, you have anything interesting you might find in short circuit? Let's see, Jenny was mentioning that they met a former that they hosted a game there once. A former Infocomp netrunner was in there, which Infocomp was a corporation that died in the Fourth Corporate War. What's it? Death Battle with Knives. I'm not sure exactly how.
He says IA. I think he means AI, Death Battle with Knives. So he's thinking artificial intelligence, Death Battle with AI. See, yeah, definitely see anything like that. I can picture. It's short circuit. It's netrunner style things. So anything digital, system involved, most definitely. And we can move on to the other bars and get through them. And everyone in chat, by all means, like I said, you can backtrack. Feel free to. Oh shit, that just popped in my mind. Yeah, that bar you mentioned, short circuit, probably has this. Put it in chat. We can always flip around to the different ones as things come to mind.
Sweet. So the next one is in the Upper Marina. It's the Afterlife. This is the premier solo bar in Night City, built in the remains of an old morgue on the outskirts of the hot zone, run by the legendary solo Rogue. Every solo in the city dreams of getting a drink at the Afterlife named after them, even if it only happens post-mortem.
Yeah. And this is the one that, moved all the way, locations up to 2077. It's been there. This is like you said, a canon part of the lore. With that place, entertainment wise, I think during time of Red, it's going to lean more towards the combative style things. Maybe there's like, maybe some pool tables, darts, and some classic, retro style gaming, but it's going to be more analog than digital there because it's very solo based style place. I think maybe the alley out back, they have little fights or some things going on. I don't picture it like the Slammer, like, having a ring inside or like crazy entertainment like that. I feel like it's more got that like network Forlorn Hope vibe to it, where it's like you're going there to get jobs or to network or to meet someone or do something along those lines. But being said, of that type of clientele, that type of spot, being Night City, every place is going to have types of entertainment, but it's going to be more analog than digital. Maybe some, like I said, out back fights or things that they do because solos are there and everyone's got the machismo thing going on. Everyone wants to prove that they're the tough guy or something. I don't know. Maybe some arm wrestling or something weird.
at a high-end solo bar, what I always imagine is like the more dangerous you are, the less bravado you have, right? Generally. So I see that as a place
it's listed as high end. That's right.
yeah, it's the premier solo bar.
Okay.
So not necessarily high end. Like only the badass of the badasses get to go in. Get their name on the list. So when you're like that like level of exclusive, I tend to think of it as more like this is all a bunch of people who know they're all dangerous and don't have to puff up their chests about it. Whereas like I'm more imagining like the slammers where like people are like, yeah, fuck you, we're gonna fight. And so as far as like entertainment, I could definitely see like classic entertainments, just like like you said, pool table, darts, shows.
And I don't think it's like the whole slammer fuck you and stuff. Like I said, I don't think it's like that. I even said it's not like that. It's not like the inside ring and stuff. I think it's more like out back, prove themselves sort of thing, which I think leans more into what you're saying, which is it's a definite great point. The more premier, the more skilled, the higher rank, the less you're having to prove yourself. Maybe it's more of that standoff sort of situation and less of the physical interaction initially. But go on, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say instead of like fighting one another, I could absolutely see like tests of skill, right? Like shooting like you're shooting pennies from 100 meters in the alleyway or something like that. Like really like pissing contests that are like being like super precise or strong, but not necessarily beating one another up, because you get enough violence. The solos get enough violence from one another, but like still want to show that you're better than people, right? I could see the arm wrestle maybe pop up every once in a while, like you said.
Yeah, I like the shooting contest idea.
Yeah,
too. I really like that.
All right, the next one is has already been mentioned, the Forlorn Hope in Little China, a small exclusive solo bar that caters primarily to veterans from South Am and Fourth Corporate Wars, serving as a home away from home to many of the city's most dangerous retired solos. This is a cool, interesting one. It's a little bit different. I think the Afterlife is like where the premier active solos are hanging out, and then the Forlorn Hope is like kind of where the old guys go to tell some stories. Now they're still dangerous, but maybe they're not, they don't need to work every day anymore. So you got a lot of guys hanging out and telling stories about the good old days, maybe drinking away some humanity loss.
I don't know. To me, it feels more combat zone. So I still picture it like going there to still get gigs, but I could see like both sides of that clientele. I like the old retire hangout because it's been there since 2020. You know what I mean? But before we go further into Forlorn Hope, I do want to backtrack just for a moment with PWB saying there in the chat, how about a rep test just to get in? Doing a standoff maybe with the front bouncer, or maybe you just do a general rep test, depending on if it's like got that premier vibe. Like if maybe the premier you're doing a 1d10 versus rep to see if you even just get in, but maybe you're doing a standoff version to like the security guy out front of like Forlorn Hope, or the less premier but the less based on the rep, but more of the standoff. Like, are you a badass enough to come in this bar? That sort of fucking vibe. Where the other one's more premier, where it's like, have I even heard of you? Are you even allowed in here? That sort of rep test. So it's different with the rep test 1d10 versus the standoff where it's the cool rep plus 1d10. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Or even a blend of the above. Yeah, Jenny said it. So it's I haven't heard of you, but following it up with like, do you even know who I am? Right, like that type of thing. And that's how you could role play, where you probably should be a good solo type person to get in, but maybe they haven't heard of you, but maybe you have some rep that you do bring up of like, I did this, and this, and you just haven't heard of me because I play it cool. That
exactly. Yeah. Or your cool and rep isn't enough, but you got the skill enough to where you're in that premiere, you're trying to get in. Haven't heard of you. What? Haven't you heard of me? Don't you know who I am? Haven't heard of you, and you fail the rep check, but you got the skill to, let me just show you something. And like you see the guys doing like the far distance penny shot, and you're just like, ping, and you hit it, and you're just like, fuck, dude. And didn't know we were dealing with someone of your caliber. By all means, enter, sir. That sort of vibe. So absolutely, definite ways to role play that in many different directions to make it happen. I like that idea a lot, though. Great idea there, PWB.
And you can have that at both Afterlife or Forlorn Hope or any other solo bar that you kind of spin up in your own game. about.
I love the rep test. Yeah, any bar. Fuck just solos. Like that rep test idea, I do like for that sort of more premier location. I'm going to try to incorporate that into an upcoming session here somewhere. I really do like that idea. It's fun.
Yeah, if you're a net runner and you're trying to get into the back room of Short Circuit, same shit.
Yeah,
right?
There you go. The VIP section of any bar, is going to involve that rep check.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have anything else on Forlorn Hope? You said you used it in a run before. What did you?
Yeah, no, it was. I think it's been in all my old classic 2020s. Anytime I've played or GM'd, like it's been involved with solos trying to network. It was the go-to spot to, get gigs, network, or in between campaigns. Players would always go there just to see what encounters they would get because it's known for solos and shit and stuff. But we can move on. Yeah, what's the next one?
The next one is the Slammer. Now, we've talked about this one a lot. It's South Night City. It's a popular ganger bar on the South Side docks, known for its cinder block arena, where boosters from all over the combat zones come to settle disputes with heavy firepower and bloody rippers. Now, this is the classic Mad Max bloody Coliseum type crazy bar, right? Where you're got cyber psychos ripping people limb from limb, or this is where if I was going to have a run where I was buying a Biotechnica Tiger, this is the one where it would end up, right? In the pit versus some other people as my bloodthirsty champion.
I totally agree. Yeah, Slammer is all about the Fight Club. It's that cinder block arena. It's all about that. That is obviously the form of entertainment there. And I think like you just said about the Biotechnica sort of Tiger aspect, don't forget it doesn't just have to be people. There can, it can be just, as long as in your session 0, people are okay with involving animals, robots, whatever they're comfortable with, But yeah, you can be creative. It is cyberpunk, but it's all about fighting. The Slammer is all about that cinder block fighting ring. So that's the main focal point of entertainment there.
This is also the bar where I would incorporate rock shows. This is also where I would incorporate low-end sex work as forms of entertainment, drugs, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
They might even have maybe they have a really a grimy BD booth that somebody stole where you can watch XBDs in the back room or some shit.
Yeah, or it's like a BDSM version of a burlesque show. It just goes a little farther. It's almost like a sex show and from Amsterdam style thing, Yeah, I could totally see that. And then as far as performers and rocker was, definite underground performers and such. I could see some of that backyard wrestling going on there. The kind where they're involving barbed wire and fluorescent tube bulbs breaking. How they do all that sort of shit in the backyard wrestling. They're doing that. They're doing that at the Slammer. I'm sure they're gonna have that's their Monday night or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's their youth night.
Get the kids involved.
Exactly. Yeah,
So, we got a question in the chat. Rushady, is there a corporo meeting place and bar? There actually is. It's not advertised as a bar. It's basically a high-end restaurant. I had it and it didn't write it down, but I might find it for you in a second. Let's actually.
Isn't it the Atlantis or something? Or?
Yeah, I was gonna. Let's talk about the next one, and I'll find it really quick, and we can talk about it afterwards. Yeah. The last canon bar is Metal Storm in Haywood. Metal Storm is a nearly indestructible bar built under the bridge to Central Night City. Metal Storm caters to chromers of all shapes and sizes, including a bunch of full-body conversions who come here to thrash and get plastered. Almost everything in this bar is solid metal, including its customers. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say this is a cool bar. I definitely see in your campaign, if Maelstrom is popular, this could very much be a Maelstrom bar, right? This is where they hang out. This is also going to be a type of place where if you want to get find a really underground cyber doc to ripper doc to go find you some good stuff, or if you want to meet cyber psychos, or maybe in your game Adam Smasher is real.
Right.
Adam Smasher. This is where Adam Smasher would hang out, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. This is where all the Borgs and people are hanging. It's all chromed out. They've gone too far. Absolutely, you're going to have your cyber psycho encounter there if there's a chance to see one. And Jenny in chat said, in the Glen, number 5, Club Atlantis. So I was right, it's the Atlantis Club
Okay,
Atlantis. That's the place, she even put the description there. I'll just read it so everyone can have it. But it's the Glen, number 5 in Cyberpunk Red listed there. Club Atlantis, a glamorous, multi-level club popular with execs for its flashy avant-garde and disorienting style, highlighted by moving staircases, mirrored walls, and cool cerulean lighting, which is kind of like a blue, I believe. But yeah, I used that. That's where the Ziggurat New Year's Eve party was, where the team got pulled aside and hired and told to go into Source and erase all knowledge of them giving up the information about the Rockland Aerozeps merchandise and shit colliding. I used Club Atlantis. That just reminded me when I read the description. That must be where I got it from. It's funny.
Yeah. Unironically, everyone gets drunk and swaps psychiatrist cell numbers. I bet the therapist is one of the more popular people at Metal Storm.
Yeah.
That's funny. Those are all right. Yeah, and then the last one is Club Atlantis. So actually at Metal Storm, we just described it. But what type of entertainment do you think we're gonna find there?
Moshing. Competitive moshing, but it's not for a prize. It's just for clout or some shit. You know what I mean? But I think it's as they described, lots of thrashing. I picture it's people on the verge of being cyber psycho, so they're already a little detached from having empathy, so they're all about the most aggressive, crazy music and forms of entertainment, and borderline violence. So if everything's made out of metal and it's known for thrashing, I picture that's the form of entertainment. Lots of very intense rocker boy things going on there, and people.
I'm imagining super death metal screamo, in a pit with crazy lights and smoke, and just industrial metal, and the Borgs are slamming into each other and throwing people off stuff, but nobody's getting hurt because you're giant metal beings, and it's just people going nuts.
Oh yeah, I can picture that. Maybe even you enter and there's sparks here and there as chromed parts are scraping and hitting up against each other and the metal walls. So there's strobes and lights and then random sparks flying around from the interactions.
As a funny thing, because it's so many Borgs and stuff like that, though it's not exclusively Borgs, but just an idea for your run. If you have your team show up to Metal Storm, maybe the way that you get in is you have to lift a 300-pound door.
I like
so
that.
So it's not a problem for the Borgs to get in, but they just self-select who can enter if you can lift
I like
the door.
That. That makes sense. That's their bouncer, that's their filtration system.
Yeah, just pick up this steel shit to get in.
And I like all the floors slope towards the central drain for cleanup. That would make sense. At the end of the night, they hit the switch, the sprinklers kick on and wash everything down the walls. Everything's metal,
Make it rain at Metal Storm is very different than everywhere else in the club.
Yeah.
Clean up all of the fluids.
But let's.
All right.
Yeah, moving on to and again, anybody has any thoughts about any of the clubs, any forms of entertainment that we touched base on, from the sports to the back alley stuff to the clubs to the digital forums, now going through all these clubs and ideas of entertainment. Anything you want to interject, bring it up in the chat. We have no problem answering questions or backtracking on things we've already talked about. But moving forward on the last club there, Atlantis, I already kind of read the description there, but if you want to just hit it one more time.
Sure. In the Glen, Club Atlantis is a glamorous multi-level club popular with execs for its flashy avant-garde and disorienting style, highlighted by moving staircases, mirrored walls, and cool cerulean lighting. So this is going to be the classic depiction of a super upscale corpo nightclub, right? You're going to get your DJ playing whatever the most modern music is. You're going to have holograms and go-go girls and go-go boys. You're going to have drugs. You're going to have long lines and pretty people standing out front. Limos. Significantly less of all of the other bars that were a little more grimy up here about competitions and stuff like that. This is much more of a place to be seen and a party rather than meet with friends.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think the form of entertainment here, you're not going to find pool tables, darts, probably not even digital games on the bar or things netrunner style. I think, like you said, the absolute form of entertainment in this place is going to be alcohol and networking, looking prettier than the people next to you, and like, you know what I mean, looking like you come from more money or you're cooler than the other people around you. That they're finding entertainment in that. It's all about people watching, networking, drinking. You know, I think it's going to be that high class sort of spot, food, drink, that sort of vibe. You know.
Yeah, I could also see it is multi-level, so you know, maybe you have a couple floors that are dancing. Maybe you have
I was just going to say, yeah. One big dance floor with a high-end DJ, or like maybe on like private party nights, like, you know, like a digital harp player, and you know, some hologram artist from the past, opera singer from whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be some really avant-garde or high-class stuff, or a really, like we said, like a really expensive DJ, the most top rank, you know.
Yeah, the phrasing avant-garde also leaves me to think about like what is kind of weird stuff. I'm imagining like, what if that's like one of the floors is a private invite only masquerade ball, right?
That burlesque show style stuff again would be here.
Or like the ultra upscale with burlesque show, like a carnival, right? So they have like, you've got trapeze artists, or you've got you know, people doing
what's that Cirque du Soleil style stuff? You know, it's going to be something like that. You know?
Cyberpunk it up.
I totally agree. It's going to be, you know, weird forms of entertainment. You know, it's going to be drinking and networking and such, but multi-levels, or, you know, some type of dance floor, but it's going to be, you know, some interesting form of music or entertainment, or it's going to be really expensive, the most popular pop artist or top level DJ or something along those lines. And then, like you said, I think the avant-garde word that they use in description definitely lends itself to the most weird forms of entertainment, but still being that upper class style shit, you know. So like I said, that Cirque du Soleil version of a circus, you know, that burlesque show that's put together by famous rocker boy actors and actresses or something, you know what I mean? Or like,
absolutely,
like that Dita Von whatever that was dating Marilyn Manson and she was dating Marilyn Manson back in the day and got real famous for her burlesque show and doing all that. You know, it's going to be things of that caliber, interesting shows that aren't just like a typical band or something, but it's all going to be like the most expensive version or entertainer of that field or whatever.
Sweet.
The Atlantis is chess. Yeah, the game for excellence inside the Atlantis is chess. I like that. It could be that. Maybe in a back room, like some exec, but let's not forget. Yeah, but let's not forget it's not going to be out in the front. You know, it's going to be more drinking and like, oh, I can't believe she's wearing that. Oh, honey, did you see her wearing that? Like that sort of fucking exec shit up and coming. I picture more of that, but I could see like if there was a place for that, it's going to be some back room, some private VIP room or something where some execs are like trying to prove, you know, their intelligence against each other. Something maybe. Because you're not going to see chess in like the dive bars potentially, maybe, you know.
Something that I've stolen for a high level bar before from a sci-fi book I read a long time ago is a back poker room, but no money is bet, and it's just executives, and all they do is bet secrets.
I like that.
And so they will, you know, they'll walk in and, you know, the Biotechna exec will lay down the formula to this new, chemical that came out. Whereas the Militech exec will lay out, you know, this is the, the security plan for this area. And like, that's the type of stuff that they're betting that's ultra high for these really rich people. The money doesn't matter anymore.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I see PWB says bathrooms are where all reps mingle. Exactly. That's a great point though, you know. Everybody has to hit the bathroom eventually, so it doesn't matter if you're, you know. Although that's not to say like VIP other levels, they have their exclusive bathrooms, so you're not going to get you're not doing your business in those, my friend. Unless you're of that rank, you meet that rep check. Do your private parts meet this rep check? Can you enter this bathroom? Fuse sounds like a great game to run, a high-risk cotton job on... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the last like physical location that exists that we haven't really touched on is like the really obvious one, but it's Playland by the Sea, the giant amusement park. That's like the most canonical entertainment venue in Night City. It's a corporate-sponsored amusement park, vacation destination, thrilling brain dance adventures, theme park rides, Continental brand food courts, corporate security, and a lot of the park is in renovation. So this is a very obvious setting for entertainment within Night City. Everything you think of a classical theme park that exists today in Disney, amped up with technology in Cyberpunk now, right? Think about it is a playland by the sea, so they likely have SeaWorld vibes, right? That's just something I've always assumed. So maybe they have like an orca whale presentation, or maybe they have like sentient dolphins or some, that have been trained to do crazy stuff, right?
Right. There's some weird choreographed jet ski demonstration, or doing ramps and with fire, and there could be all kinds of weird entertainment things, whether it's daytime or nighttime. But yeah, I totally picture it like that, that cyberpunk version of Disney World or whatever, well, Disneyland, because it's not as big as Disney World. It's a bit smaller in this city, in Night City. But yeah, it's the exec or family theme park vibe. When it comes to entertainment, we've touched base on all the sports and clubs and all the different forms, and it's always kind of been a mix in all the things that we've discussed, whether it's all ages or adult or whatever. Whereas when I think of this place, to me it feels 100%, like you said, Cyberpunk Disneyland. So it's going to be more exec and family based, a more wholesome form of entertainment in Night City. Probably the only form of wholesome entertainment in Night City, and that being said, always make sure it's as described, heavily secured, really good security, and it also said under renovation. As you can imagine, like most shit in Night City during the time of Red, bouncing back from Fourth Corporate War and all the fallout and stuff, things are not just building up from an idea, but from what they once were and all the damage they took. And I imagine this is probably the same type of situation. It's under constant renovation.
Absolutely. All right, I think we've covered almost everything related to entertainment within the book. Chat, do you have any questions? Anything you want us to revisit? Anything you think is interesting that we missed?
Yeah, by all means, if there's any other forms of entertainment in Night City that we didn't mention, throw it out there in chat now, or forever hold your peace, and we'll just assume we covered everything. Which is impossible. I know, like, every time I do episodes in series like this, I'm always like, hell yeah, I think we covered everything. We did this, that, blah, blah, blah. Any other things? No one there. Everyone's like, cool, we go. And then the second I end the transmission and step away or go make dinner or lay down for sleep tonight, I'll be like, oh, shit, forgot to mention. Like... But you know what? That's, eventually, if there's enough of things that we didn't mention, or things that pop up late in later discussions or chats or in comments on the VOD version, we can always come back for a part 2. You know what I mean? There can always be a part 2 to these topics. But yeah, I think we covered just about everything. We went through, all the sports, the different sports teams, going from the McCartney Field Stadium down to all the clubs and bars. All the different forms of rocker boys and entertainment, from back alleys to the streets up to the little bars and stuff. We covered all the different canon spots. We mentioned the Slammer and all the different ones we just did. I also went into all the different creative things that you can think of, encouraging GMs, think of more, think outside the box. And if you're watching this on the VOD version of this on the Cyberpunk Uncensored YouTube, please drop ideas into the comments, because like I said, I'll pull them into a part 2 or something. I love spreading more and more ideas. But yeah, the Nomad Death Races, Battle Bots and Battle Drones, the Body Lotto, Strip Clubs, Topless Bars, Brain Dance, both legal and illegal, and different versions of that we talked about. Russian Roulette, different versions of that. Rocker Boy, Battle of the Bands, literally, Battle of the Bands. Solos and Nomads, running man-style obstacle courses, similar to what GM Jack did there, calling it the Dying Man. Don't forget about betting. All forms of entertainment have forms of betting or corruption, because don't forget, a lot of things are corporate sponsored. Everyone wants that top sponsor spot, or they want to take out their competitor, so to speak. Referees can get involved. Don't forget about kidnapping and murder top players of teams. I'm just trying to, recap all the things while I'm giving chat time in case they had any last minute questions. But I think I just did a quick cliff notes of everything we covered. Did I miss anything there?
Just think about the data pool. Think about how the differences between data pool, broadcast TV, network programming, sat feeds, who your media is provided by, where's it coming from, who controls it. makes all for interesting ways to how to integrate entertainment into your story, because there's drama at each one of those levels and power to be accrued by any of those players. So wherever you want to source entertainment or make a story, especially if your team has one or more rocker boys on it, how can you incorporate them into drama that gives you opportunities to be cyber and punk?
Yeah, that's a great point to reiterate. Yeah, and PWB says you gave me quite a bit to think about. Jenny says, good show, y'all. Yeah, I think we covered everything. I think people are saying great job, so that leads me to believe we did a great job. I'm gonna trust their opinion. When it's positive like that, I'll believe it. I'll fucking believe it. But yeah, and like Rue says, part 2 entertainment. Yeah, we can always revisit and do a part 2. And honestly, I wouldn't even mind, like, once I get through all these Night City lives, maybe me and you will get together and have a private chat and just revisit, places, things, services, gangs, entertainment, the upcoming episodes, and maybe we'll put together like a part 2 to all those in one episode if there's not enough to make each individual. You know what I mean? Like we can do an addendum or whatever to all the previous episodes or something maybe. Sweet. I don't know. But yeah, like I said, anybody that's watching this in the VOD, feel free to drop some ideas in the comments. I'll pull that into future stuff. Also, we can touch base on things on my next live AMA. Like I mentioned, also check out in the description. I'm going to put links to everything Cyberpunk Uncensored. Obviously, I want you to join the Discord. Check out the Patreon. I would love your support. Check out the group on Facebook, all that stuff. You'll see the links in the description. But also, make sure you check out Night City Stories. We have the link there in the Cyberpunk Uncensored Discord. That's where you'll find Lobster, Falcon, and his buddies. We're partners with them. They do a great West March gameplay. They have lots of opportunity, real easy to get involved. So check all that out. Like I said, I'll put that link in the description as well. Any final words or last words before I kill the transmission?
So like Rob said, come check out Night City Stories if you want to get your Cyberpunk fix and you don't have a home game to scratch that itch. The only other shout out I'm going to give is if there's anybody out there looking to hire a writer for Cyberpunk content, then don't look no farther than our chat, Jenny Glitz. Jenny Glitz is actually a very, very good author for Cyberpunk. And so if you're looking for somebody to write for some content for you, reach out to Jenny, or I can point you in that direction.
Nice, awesome. Yeah, our PWB does that as well for our Scream Sheets. So PWB and Jenny, you two should probably talk to each other. I know we started up the whole showcasing writers on the Cyberpunk Uncensored Discord. It's only like a few bucks a month through the Patreon, but we're also showcasing work on the general writer channel as well as Scream Sheet releases. So as we're putting out the IMG from the Edge Scream Sheets for GMs to use, we're showcasing fake news and stories and articles and ads and all kinds of stuff from artists and writers. So Jenny, talk to PWB. You guys should definitely chat. Maybe there's ways to work together, get involved with these projects to at least showcase the talents and lead to more paid gigs. But I second that. Anybody that needs that sort of shit, hit up Jenny, hit up PWB, support the community. We all put passion into our talents and into Cyberpunk because we love it. I do it because I'm obsessed. I can't stop thinking of ideas and new series and episodes and streams I want to do, and I want to talk about it all the time. That's why I started that AMA. I'm just like, fuck, I'm kind of bored right now. Let's just go live and talk about shit, Like, I'm just into it. But that's not to say it's not completely, fuel on the fire, motivated, validated by your support as a fan. So please, if you like the shit that I'm doing, that Lobster's doing, that these writers are doing, anybody in the Cyberpunk community, find a way to support. See if there's a Patreon to support. Even a simple like and share of a video or something that they put out goes a long way. Encourage it to other people, and someone out there might need it and find some value in it. So yeah, let's all just support each other. I think that's going to be my last words here. But yeah, thanks so much for joining me as always. We'll do more episodes together. I love having you on to chat. Yeah, and thanks everybody coming into the chat and joining us. I really appreciate it. So everybody take care, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.